He farmed the community and remained a farmer in the area of Piatt's Landing for many, many years until the family dissolved from that community. Now here we have the gravestones of John Piatt and his wife Millicent. Now these gravestones are at the East Bend Baptist Church, right?
Right.
There's the East Bend Baptist Church. There they are. And now see, there we were talking before, there's where the old road on the 83 Atlas, this shows that is kind of the new road that goes up to the top of the hill. There's where the old one. And these are the graves there at East Bend Baptist Church. All right? And now those are the, okay, that's John Piatt and his wife, Elizabeth. All right. That's Daniel and Elizabeth. They're stones. Okay, move ahead. Okay. Now, two of the sons fought with Piatt, with John Hunt Morgan in the Civil War. Now, Asa, I don't know what it was spelled like Asal. You see how that's his name, Asal, and Daniel Piatt. Asa Daniel Piatt and William Kane Piatt both served under Morgan. Now, when Morgan escaped, they were both captured, but in Indiana, not when Morgan got captured in Ohio. But when Morgan escaped from the Columbus jail, penitentiary, and came down all the way to Ludlow and then across the river, Cincinnati, across the river to Ludlow, and then through Boone County, he stayed at the Piatt Fowler House in Union, which still stands. If you're Ricky Rowley lives there now. Dr. Houston owned it once, the McClellan's owned it, Ricky Rowley owned it, and now it's for sale, I think. You know what I'm talking about, the stone house on Old 42, before you get into Union, next to Clarkson Lane, across from Clarkson Lane. Okay, that was the Piatt Fowler House. Because both of his sons fought with Morgan, he had an easy reception to that house, is one of the reasons he used that to plot his stay in Boone County and return to the south. He stayed in the Piatt Fowler House, and there he met with Mr. Corbin and others, and he spent the night in Corbin House out on Big Bone Road, and then the next day through Big Bone and on out of the county. The Morgan had a strong connection. So you see, part of the family were with the Confederacy, and there was the general, Canby, was a Union general. So the family was divided up between North and South, which is typical of that period of time. Many families were, one brother would go one way and one another. I mean, they would divide up between North and South. So the Piatt home in Union was very much involved with the escape of John Hunt Morgan through Boone County. Okay. There's a marker for Piatt's Park in Cincinnati. Like I say, that was first named the Garfield Park for General Garfield. The Piatt family said, enough of that, we gave it to you, let's name it for Piatt. Okay, let's move in. Now we get to Winfield Cottage. And it's interesting that Winfield Cottage, how to get the name Winfield Cottage? Well, the Piatts didn't name it Winfield Cottage. When Robert Piatt sold the property after his wife Nancy died, and he did remarry, but within a few years he met his own demise and sold the property to Benjamin Crutchfield, and Benjamin Crutchfield's wife, whose last name was Wynn. Her name was, what is her first name? Emily Wynn. At any rate, he combined Crutchfield and Wynn to Winfield. So he kind of reversed, oh, I'm hitting you in the eye with that. Put her line. So the house was named by the Crutchfields, Winfield Cottage, from his wife, Sarah Wynn, and his last name, Crutchfield Winfield. Okay, I think it's kind of clever. The house had already gone under the restoration of the Piatt family as it is in its totality. Crutchfield had to make no additions to the house. It stayed the same. And that's when, in 1844, is when Robert Piatt sold the home and all the 200 acres except the half acre for the cemetery, which is the Piatt Cemetery. And that remained the Piatt Cemetery. That's where Robert Piatt and Nancy Piatt were buried, as well as other members of the family. Now, interesting enough, a lot of people said, gee whiz, that looks like, and you saw the portrait over here done by Mary Amanda Moore. That looks like, there's the picture, that looks like a mansion, not a cottage. Cottage was a term used in those days to speak of gracious homes were called cottages. This was placed so that they described you could sit on the porch and enjoy the fresh breezes that blew off the river. The river is quite close to us here. In fact, the 37 flood came there, right up to those windows. The 37 flood entered the house. Were any of you there then?
Yeah.
You were there. So
I was laying in my bed in the living room and the water was running in the basement.
okay. It did come up into the house, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How far up into the house did it come?
Yeah. How far did it get up?
The water got up just above all those windows that you.
That's right. Like that, right. I have a picture that
About
shows.
2 feet from the ceiling.
Wow.
Wow.
I have some pictures that show it up to that high. You see. But
We had about a foot of mud when the water went down.
okay. All right. Now let you folks know, and these are people you're going to want to talk to. The Hodges, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And now your first name, sir?
Wilford.
Wilford Hodges.
Yeah.
You live there with who else?
I was born there.
And what's that?
I was born there.
You were born there.
I was too.
He was too.
And now let me say a little bit about the Crutchfields. My relationship to this is that the Crutchfields, he and his wife, were childless. They adopted my great-great-grandmother, Mary Stewart, as when she was 6 years old. Her father was a man named John Stewart, who never returned from the War of 1812. Now, when he didn't return, I don't know whether he found a Creole or what, but at any rate, he never got back. You know, I mean, he died, I guess. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He never came back. So Mary Stewart was there. Oh, Margaret Stewart, Mary Stewart's mother, was left with a child. And because she was in Louisville, that's where John Stewart was, and Crutchfield had a mercantile business in Louisville and Cincinnati. He worked between the two places. He apparently became acquainted with Mary Stewart's mother, Margaret Stewart, at that time, and knew her circumstances and adopted the child, Mary Stewart, because they didn't have it. Crutchfield then raised her as his own, he and his wife. They sent her when she was 9 years old to the Nazareth Academy in Boyle County, near Bardstown. It was a Catholic operated school. And in my family today, when we get a blessing for a meal, it's always the Macamo prayer, which is, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts we're about to receive the mighty bountiful hand through Christ our Lord. Amen. Because that's been passed down. And then from the Nazareth School, they sent her to Manamontel. They had a lot of money. You could send her to Manamontel School in Lexington, where she learned French and how to play the piano, and she was a beautiful pianist. And that artistic talent went on through the family to her cousin McConnell and what's it? Jean Marie.
Yeah, she taught music at UK when I was there.
All right, that's a grand nephew of Mary Stuart McConnell. Taught that musical bent went through the family forever. But that's part of the history of that house and that family, and that's where it became known as Crutchfield, from Benjamin Crutchfield and his wife.
Bruce?
Yes.
Do you remember when you and I went in the attic of that house?
Yes.
And could see from the attic where the changes were made. It was almost like a fingerprint.
Yeah. And, you know, the tragedy of this house is that it succumbed to the bulldozer. And I resisted that vehemently.
Yes.
I was on the court, and okay, I've got another slide there. There's a house as it was after the flood and after the folks moved out. And you folks, when was the last time the Hodges were there? When did you all leave the property?
Oh, my dad and mom moved out of there with Bessie, my sister, and moved down the river.
Where?
What year about?
Oh.
Harris has owned it by this time, right?
What I'm wondering is, when the Piatts got rid of it, who bought, I know when my parents lived there, there was people, men from Cincinnati by the name of Harris.
Harris is in
Now, did they buy it from?
They bought it. Harris owned it, the Harris family owned it for 100 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my father
And
and
then
mother,
Harris sold it to Mullins.
please.
Mullins?
Did Harris's buy it from Crutchfield?
Yes, the Crutchfield estate. Now, it went through a couple of changes, but people that only owned it for a year or so and speculated, it made a couple $100 or $1,000 or so. But it went almost, you might say, from Crutchfield to Harris, with just a few intruders in between.
Well, when my parents and his parents lived there, the Harris brothers owned the farms up and down the river there.
And then they sold it to Jimmy Mullins
That's right. Yeah.
in 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, they conveyed the property to Jimmy Mullins in 64 for $29,000.
Okay, my dad and them must have moved from there then.
That's right. And Jimmy Mullins, he had, I think, he had an interest in the roller rink, and he had the roller rink in early house here. Yeah, Jimmy's roller. Okay. So, like I say, I had an opportunity with my cousin Andrew O'Gray McConnell, and I did go in there, and he removed, with the permission of the power company, because they said we're tearing it down next week.
So what do they care?
Yeah, we don't care what you do. It's going under the bulldozer. Unfortunately, what really disturbs me, that bulldozer went everywhere it wanted to go, including the Piatt graveyard.
No way.
Do we have a picture of that? There it is. I salvaged Nancy Piatt's tombstone from the bulldozer down there. That is at the back of my house. That's the only thing that was left that hadn't got bulldozed. Yes, can you believe that? I mean, well, it left a bad feeling with me. So the Union Light Heat Power all my life. But there it shows she died April the 17th, I think it is, in 1839. After 58 years, 9 months, and 12 days, how they would do that in those days. I had a hard time figuring out when she was born when they do that to me. But